The unexpected news. Amara sat in the cramped bathroom of her two-bedroom apartment, heart pounding so hard it felt ready to burst. On the sink, the truth lay in silence, a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. Bold, undeniable. She had blamed her nausea on stress, skipped meals, or oily roadside food, but deep down she knew. Now the answer glared at her, stripping away every excuse. Her thoughts dragged her back to that night at the club. Blaring music, blurred lights, too much alcohol, and a stranger's touch that lingered longer than it should. She barely remembered his name. One reckless night and then silence. He had promised to call, but his number grew cold, always busy, then switched off. A ghost she wished she could erase. But there was also Say, quiet, persistent, dependable. He had no wealth, no car, no flashy lifestyle, just a struggling printing business and a kind heart. He checked on her, brought food when he could, asked about her day. And one night, when loneliness pressed too hard, she had let him into her bed. Now, staring at those 2 lines, Amara realized she carried a life, but had no idea whose it was. The confession. For 2 days she walked with the secret burning inside her. She worked, smiled, answered calls, but inside she felt fragile, as though one wrong step would shatter her. Finally, she asked Say to meet her at a roadside suya spot. The plastic chairs wobbled beneath them, smoke from grilled meat hanging in the air. Amara twisted her napkin, her voice trembling. "I'm pregnant." Say froze, Coke bottle halfway to his lips. Slowly, he set it down. His face went blank, unreadable. Silence lingered, broken only by the hiss of roasting meat outside. Then, with a heavy sigh, he leaned back. "Amara, things are hard for me. I don't even have my life figured out yet." His eyes softened as he looked at her. "But I'm not the type to run. If this child is mine, I'll stand by you. Just, please don't end it." Tears blurred her vision. She had braced for anger or abandonment. Instead, she found quiet acceptance. That night, beneath the rattling ceiling fan, Amara pressed her hand to her flat belly. Not yet rounded, but no longer hers alone. She made her choice. She would keep the baby. The months tested her. Work grew harder, her body heavier, her strength thinner. Yet she pushed on, balancing fatigue with determination. And Say was there. Sometimes with roasted corn wrapped in newspaper, sometimes carrying her bag, sometimes sitting with her in silence. He had little, but he gave what he could. The man from the club faded into nothingness. A shadow in her past, unworthy of her child's future. The first time she felt the baby kick, Amara gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks. Both hands cradled her stomach as she whispered, "We'll be okay. Mama's working for you." And she meant every word. The invitation. By her 8th month, Amara's body was heavy, her steps slow, but her willpower remained intact. One quiet evening, as they sat on the balcony of her apartment, watching the sun melt into an orange horizon, Say cleared his throat. "Amara," he began, voice careful, "I know we're not married. People may talk. But I think you should move in with me. At least for now. It'll be easier to raise the baby together." She turned to study him. His eyes were steady but nervous, his fingers fiddling with the edge of his chair. His place wasn't much, just a small 1-bedroom in a modest neighborhood. But the sincerity in his face made her chest tighten. "You're sure?" she asked softly. He nodded without hesitation. "We'll manage with the little we have." For the first time in weeks, Amara allowed herself to lean against him, her head resting on his shoulder. The birth. When labor pains came, it was Say who bundled her into a borrowed car in the middle of the night. His hands shook so badly on the wheel that he missed a turn, while Amara screamed through contractions, clutching the dashboard. By dawn, their world changed. Amara gave birth to a healthy baby boy, his cry piercing the hospital ward like a song of victory. Tears blurred Say's eyes as he gripped her hand. "We did it," he whispered hoarsely. "He's here." They named him Tamawa. Enough for me to rejoice. A simple kind of happy. Life with Tamawa was messy, noisy, and exhausting, yet beautiful. Their cramped apartment grew smaller by the day. Baby clothes strung across lines, bottles piling in corners, Tamawa's cries filling sleepless nights. Sei often woke just to check if the baby was breathing, his large hands clumsy as he tried to soothe him. Sometimes he patted too hard, sometimes too soft, until Amara laughed through her fatigue. She, too, adjusted, balancing work emails with one hand while rocking Tamawa with the other, typing reports with him sprawled across her lap. At night, when he finally slept, she would collapse beside him, whispering prayers of gratitude. Some evenings, Amara and Sei sat cross-legged on the floor, Tamawa asleep between them. They spoke of dreams and fears, and though they had little, they held on to each other. For now, that was enough. New blessings. By Tamawa's first birthday, blessings began to pour in. Sei's struggling printing business caught a lucky break when a private school gave him a bulk order. That one deal opened doors to referrals, and soon he was supplying schools across their area. Amara, too, excelled at work. After winning a major case for a wealthy client, she earned a promotion and more trust from her boss. With her new responsibilities came better pay. By Tamawa's second birthday, their combined income was enough for savings. They moved into a neat two-bedroom apartment, furnished it with care, and for the first time no longer had to count coins before making decisions. The unanswered question. Yet, despite their progress, Sei had not proposed. It wasn't that he didn't love her, he did, deeply. But to him, marriage was a covenant, not a formality. He had seen his father rush into it, only to live in regret. Sei refused to repeat the same mistake. In his private thoughts, he told himself, I'm still studying her. Money changes people. Let me see her when she's comfortable. Change came. At first, it was subtle. Amara began dressing better, her hair and nails always polished. She attended more work events and carried herself with a confidence Sei admired. But then came the tone. Don't worry, Sei. You won't understand. This is corporate stuff. Or, you don't have to come. It's not really your kind of crowd. She started making household decisions without consulting him, brushing off his questions with, I'm the one paying for it anyway. Sei bit his tongue. He told himself it was only a phase, that he should be patient for Tamawa's sake. But deep down, he felt a shift. The question was no longer should I marry her, but is this even the woman I want to marry? The constant clash. It soon became clear. Nothing Sei did was ever right. If he came home early, she wrinkled her nose. You've closed already? Are you even hustling enough? How will we grow like this? If he came home late, she was waiting at the door, arms folded. Where have you been? Which woman kept you this long? Do you think I'm stupid? At first, he tried to explain calmly. Amara, I was with a client. I was at the shop, sorting an order. But explanations no longer mattered. Her questions had turned into accusations. Small things became sparks for conflict. Shoes left near the couch, laundry folded the wrong way, even how he played with Tamawa. If he laughed at a friend's text, she snapped, keep those silly jokes for your girlfriends. Sei endured it all in silence. Day after day, he buried the hurt deeper, repeating to himself, be patient. Watch. Learn. But inside, something was breaking. The final straw. It was late evening when Sei dragged himself home. His shirt clinging to his back with sweat and the faint smell of ink from the printing shop still on him. His shoulders ached from lifting deliveries all day, and his head pounded from hours in the sun. He wanted nothing more than a shower, food, and silence. But silence was the one thing Amara never gave him. The moment he stepped through the door, her voice rose sharp, cutting through the room. So you've started keeping late nights again? Don't think I don't notice. You think I don't see the way you smile at that girl that sells next to your shop? Sei dropped his bag slowly, his body heavy with exhaustion. He rubbed his forehead. Amara, please.
I'm tired.
Not tonight. But her tone only grew harder, more biting. She followed him into the sitting room, her words like stones. She accused him of being irresponsible, of wasting her time, of not being man enough to make her his wife after all these years. Something inside him shifted. Quiet break. He looked at her, the woman he had once thought he could grow old with, and realized he didn't recognize her anymore. When her words finally paused, he spoke. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of finality. Amara, I can't do this anymore. I've tried. God knows I've tried. But this isn't love. I won't spend every day fighting. And I won't let Tamawa grow up thinking this is normal. She let out a harsh laugh, folding her arms. So that's it? You're running away? Go. That's why you'll never be man enough for me. He swallowed the sting, his jaw tightening. But he said nothing more. Silence was his last defense. The morning after, before the sun broke the horizon, Sei rose quietly. He packed a small suitcase. Just a few clothes, some toiletries, nothing more.
No arguments, no shouting.
Just an ending. He walked softly into Tamawa's room. The boy was fast asleep, his tiny chest rising and falling in steady rhythm, his little hand curled around a toy car. Sei stood there for a long moment, guilt and love twisting inside him. Then he leaned down, brushed his son's hair, and whispered, I'll always be here for you, champ, no matter what. Even if I'm not in this house, I'll always be your dad. By the time Amara woke, the house felt different, emptier. On the dining table sat a folded note. I can't live like this anymore. I'll always support our son, but I need my peace. Sei's new life. Leaving felt like breathing after months underwater. No more constant tension. No more shouting. Just air, silence, and space. He found a modest, self-contained apartment not far from his printing shop. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. For the first time in a long while, peace met him at the door. Work became his focus. With a clearer mind, he threw himself into building the business. He pushed harder, made calls, visited schools and churches, offered deals. Within months, he landed 2 contracts. One with a church for banners and bulletins, another with a private school for uniforms and exercise books. His income doubled, and so did his hope. Still, no matter how busy he became, 2 days were sacred, Thursdays and Sundays. Those belonged to Tamawa. On those days, he picked him up, took him to the park, bought him ice cream, or let him color with crayons at the shop while he worked. Every hug, every laugh reminded Sei why he endured. Amara without him. At first, Amara barely noticed his absence. The silence in the house felt like freedom. No arguments, no sulking looks, no explanations. She told herself she was lighter, freer. But slowly, reality crept in. Balancing her demanding job with raising Tamawa alone became heavier than she imagined. Some nights she came home past bedtime and found him asleep on the couch, still in his school uniform, homework untouched. Other mornings, she was too drained to cook, rushing him to school with an empty stomach. She kept muttering to herself, I'll do better tomorrow, but tomorrow always slipped through her hands. And the guilt grew sharper each time she looked into Tamawa's eyes. The plan for a maid. One evening, after another long day, Amara sat at the dining table staring at her son's unfinished homework. Frustration pressed into her chest. She wanted to scream, but all that came out was a sigh. I can't keep this up alone. That night, the thought formed. She needed help. Not just someone to clean, but someone who could care for Tamawa, guide him with schoolwork, make sure he ate, bathed, and slept properly. The next time Sei dropped him off, she raised it. I'm thinking of getting a maid, she said carefully. Not just for the house, for Tamawa too. I can't do everything alone. Sei frowned, his protective instincts sparking. If you must, Amara, please make sure it's someone you can trust. I don't want any harm coming to my boy. I know, she replied quickly. I'll be careful. The new maid. 2 weeks later, she found her. Her name was Zainab. Mid-20s, tall, soft-spoken. Her eyes carrying a quiet depth. She introduced herself with simple words, polite but not overeager. Amara didn't ask too many questions. Zainab only said she wanted to work hard and start over. That was enough. What Amara didn't know was that Zainab carried a past heavy with regret. Years ago, when life backed her into a corner, she had fallen into a life of survival, accepting money from men in exchange for what they wanted. It wasn't what she dreamed of, but desperation had left her no choice. Now she wanted to rebuild. Being a maid wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. The day she stepped into Amara's apartment, she whispered to herself, "This is my chance. I won't waste it." A new routine. Zainab adjusted quickly. She woke before dawn, prepared Tamua's breakfast, walked him to school. By the time Amara came home in the evenings, dinner was ready, homework done, and the house tidy. At first, Tamua was shy, watching her quietly from a distance. But Zainab's patience wore him down. She laughed at his jokes, remembered his favorite snacks, listened to his long stories about school. Soon, he was running to meet her at the door, smiling as if he'd known her forever. "You're doing a great job," Amara admitted one evening. "Tamua really likes you." Zainab smiled softly, bowing her head. "He's a good boy. I just want to make things easier for you." But in her heart lingered a shadow, the ache of the life she had once lived, and the silent vow never to go back. Amara's late nights. At first, Amara's nights out were strictly professional networking, business dinners, client meetings. But as months passed, the quietness of her home felt heavier. Loneliness crept in. She missed laughter, missed warmth, missed being desired. So when invitations came, from colleagues, old admirers, even strangers, she said yes. Restaurants, lounges, private bars. She laughed too loudly, drank too much, let hands linger too long. Her excuse was simple: Zainab is with Tamua. He's safe. Her nights stretched later and later, sometimes slipping past midnight. She would tiptoe in, perfume and wine still clinging to her, never realizing her son had waited for her before falling asleep. Tamua's lonely nights. Tamua noticed. He was old enough now. One evening, after lying awake too long, he padded softly across the house, his small feet cold against the tiles. He knocked gently on Zainab's door. "Auntie Z, can I sleep here tonight?" She opened the door, startled. But when she saw him, small, sleepy-eyed, holding his teddy, her heart softened. "Come in," she whispered. He climbed into her bed and curled against her, his head on her arm. She wrapped him close, protective, almost like a mother. Within minutes, his breathing grew steady in her warmth. A new habit. It happened again the next week. And the week after. On the nights Amara stayed out, Tamua slipped into Zainab's room. Sometimes he talked about cartoons, about school, about little fears that bubbled in his chest. Other times, he only wanted her arms around him until sleep came. Zainab never refused him. She told herself she was only filling a gap, making sure he didn't feel alone. But in her heart, she worried. Worried she was crossing an invisible line Amara would never understand. A growing distance. Amara didn't notice. She still loved her son, still provided, but unknowingly she was slipping out of his nighttime world. Tamua stopped waiting for her kiss at bedtime, stopped looking for her voice in the dark. Instead, he looked for Zainab. And slowly, without anyone planning it, Zainab was becoming more than just the maid in his young eyes. It was a calm Saturday afternoon, the kind that made the whole neighborhood seem to exhale at once. The air was hot but not unbearable, the sun slanting through the curtains in Amara's house and painting faint golden lines across the tiled floor. Somewhere outside, a blender word from a neighbor's kitchen. Children's voices carried from the street, shouts, laughter, the squeak of bicycle tires on rough pavement. The knock at the door came sharp, but not unfamiliar. Zainab, who had just finished wiping down the living room table, went to answer. When she pulled the door open, she found Say standing there. He wasn't dressed to impress, just a simple polo and jeans, but there was a brightness in his eyes, that unmistakable eagerness of a father arriving to see his child. Before Zainab could greet him, a thud 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 echoed down the hallway. Tamua came racing, his little feet slapping against the tiles, his voice already ringing out. "Daddy!" He crashed into Say's legs, with so much force that Say had to step back to steady himself. Laughing, he scooped the boy up into his arms, pressing a kiss against his cheek. "Ah, my guy, look at how big you're getting," he said, spinning him just enough to make Tamua squeal. The boy clung to his father's neck for a moment, then wriggled free, turning to Zainab with the seriousness only a 6-year-old could muster. Auntie Z, don't forget to keep my drawing safe. Okay? I left it on the table. Zainab crouched until her eyes met his. Her smile was soft, motherly. I won't forget. I'll keep it right where you left it. She straightened his collar instinctively, brushing an invisible speck from his shirt. Now go on, have fun with Daddy. For a moment, Sei didn't move. His eyes lingered, not on Tamawa, but on the way the boy's small hand reached naturally for Zainab's. The way his face softened when he looked at her. It wasn't casual. It wasn't small. It was the kind of bond that whispered, "This person feels like home to me." By the time Sei returned with Tamawa, the boy was happily exhausted from the day's adventures. Sei helped him change into his pajamas, tucked him into bed, and kissed his forehead before stepping back into the sitting room. He didn't leave immediately. Instead, he waited. Amara arrived close to 9 p.m., her heels clicking against the tiles like a warning bell. Her hair was freshly styled. Her lips painted a deep red that caught the dim light. She smelled of perfume and nightlife, her aura radiating impatience, as though her return was a chore rather than a homecoming. We need to talk, Sei said before she could head toward her room. Amara sighed heavily, dropping her bag on the sofa. Talk about what?
I'm tired.
I've noticed something, he began carefully. Tamawa is very close to Zainab, closer than I expected. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's different. Almost like he's more attached to her than... Amara cut him off with a sharp roll of her eyes. Obviously he's close to her. She spends all her time with him. That's literally why she's here. That's what I pay her for. That's not the point, Sei pressed, his tone calm but firm. I'm his father. I can see it. He's clinging to her because you're hardly here. A child doesn't need to complain for you to notice when something's missing. Amara's jaw tightened. So what do you want me to do, Sei? Quit my job? Sit at home like a housewife while the world passes me by? You think money doesn't matter? You think I don't care about him? That's not what I'm saying. His voice was quieter now, almost pleading. I'm saying your presence matters more than you think. Don't let him grow up seeing someone else as the parent who was always there. But Amara was already heading toward her room, waving him off. You're overreacting. The boy is happy. That's all that matters. Sei didn't push further. He left the house that night, but the unease clung to him as he drove. His thoughts replayed the way Tamawa had clung to Zainab earlier, the quiet way his son had looked at her, as if saying without words, "This is the person who makes me feel safe." Sei tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He knew children's hearts. They were tender, fragile things, and he knew how quickly loyalties could shift. Not with noise and chaos, but with a quiet drift, the kind that no one noticed until it was too late. Life inside Amara's house was steady, almost predictable. Mornings were for chores, afternoons for Tamawa, evenings for preparing meals and tidying up. By day, she was occupied enough not to notice the silence. But when the house settled into stillness at night, the emptiness pressed in on her. She would lie on her bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the fan and the faint traffic outside. Memories crept in, the shadow of her old life, a life she had buried but not forgotten. Men's attention once constant. Touch, sometimes for money, sometimes for desire. It wasn't sex she longed for now, not exactly. It was something softer, deeper, the warmth of being wanted, the comfort of a body next to hers, the feeling of being seen. She had vowed never to return to the woman she once was. But her body hadn't forgotten what closeness felt like. Some nights the ache gnawed at her so strongly she tossed and turned, clutching her pillow as though it could replace the arms she missed. Tamawa's nightly visits. And then there were the nights when she heard it. A soft knock at her door. When she opened it, there he was, Tamawa, sleepy-eyed, clutching his pillow like a shield. His whisper was always the same. Auntie Z, can I sleep here? Her heart melted each time. Come, she would sigh gently, stepping aside. He would climb onto her bed, curling into her side like a little bird seeking shelter. Sometimes he was asleep in minutes, his small fingers holding on to her arm. Other times he whispered stories about school, about the games he played, about missing the days when his parents were together. Those confessions, murmured in the dark, left a bittersweet ache in Zainab's chest. She never turned him away. She stroked his hair, hummed lullabies when he stirred, and whispered reassurances until he drifted off. In his small world, she had become the constant he could count on. Over time, the connection between them grew roots. Zainab could read him like a book. She knew he liked his cereal crunchy, not soggy. She knew when he needed quiet and when he craved attention. She knew how long to stretch bedtime stories so sleep would finally claim him. When nightmares startled him awake, it was Zainab he ran to. When he achieved something at school, it was her applause that made him beam with pride. She wasn't trying to replace anyone. She was simply present. And presence, in a child's world, meant everything. Amara's distance. Amara saw the closeness but never worried. If anything, it freed her. That's why I hired her, she reminded herself. Zainab's reliability gave her permission to live as she pleased. So she did. Lounges, dinners, weekends that stretched into Monday mornings. Compliments from men, laughter she hadn't felt in years. The thrill of freedom she had long been denied. She told herself she was chasing happiness. Sometimes she didn't come home for 2 or 3 days. Phone calls to Tamawa grew fewer. Zainab was dependable. Tamawa was in safe hands. What more was there to worry about? But Tamawa shifted. Slowly, subtly. The spark that once lit up his face when Amara returned began to fade. One evening, she came in smiling, arms open wide. Tamawa looked up, nodded politely, then returned to his toys. The first time, she laughed it off. The second time, she frowned. By the third, she stopped opening her arms altogether. Zainab noticed too, but she said nothing. Instead, she filled the gaps quietly, steadily, giving the boy a presence his mother had long stopped offering. The conflict inside her. And yet, every night, when Tamawa finally drifted into dreams, Zainab faced her own battles. She was nurturing, maternal, protective. But once the silence returned, her own body betrayed her, reminding her of the intimacy she missed. It wasn't the reckless desire of her past. It was the ache of wanting to be loved, wanted for who she was now, not who she had been. But she vowed never to let that longing intrude here. Not with this boy who trusted her completely. So she lay awake most nights, staring at the ceiling, torn between who she had been, who she was becoming, and the uncertain future that stretched before her. One evening, lying in the dark with her thoughts spinning, she decided she needed some kind of release, something to quiet the ache and help her sleep. She started using her fingers gradually to look for the spot. She found it and was touching herself, playing with her clit. Then she reached orgasm. Even at that, she wanted more. It was way different from the one you do with someone. The feeling was different. She just wanted a man to be on top of her and take charge like always. The following night, she was still doing it with her fingers. While it was going on, she didn't hear Tamawa knocking countless times, because she was close. Then he entered. He was shocked what he saw. He saw her playing with her vaginal and moaning loudly. When Zainab heard some footsteps close to her, she checked what it was. She froze, lo and behold, it was Tamawa, watching her. She couldn't explain. She stopped and asked him to come. He climbed the bed. She took his fingers and tell him not to tell his mother. He nodded. She directed him on using his fingers to play with her clit. Immediately, he didn't get it at first, but with time he did. She gasped. Said yes, he continued. Innocent Tamawa never knew what it was. But he liked it. He was just 4 years old. She reached the peak and then relaxed. It continued like that for months, sometimes morning and night. He was no longer coming to Zainab's room because he was lonely. It became a pattern, which his mum never saw. Rather, when she discovered, it was already too late. Tamawa turned 6, broke with soft sunlight streaming into the little home. For most children, birthdays came with balloons, presents, and cakes carefully arranged by their mothers. But in this house, it wasn't Amara who made the day special, it was Zainab. For weeks she had been quietly preparing. With her modest wages, she couldn't afford much, but she gave what mattered most, her heart. The night before, long after the house had grown silent, she stayed up in the kitchen. With no fancy mixer or baking tins, she stirred the vanilla batter by hand, humming softly as though her song itself would sweeten it. When the cake finally baked, she dusted it with colorful sugar crystals she had bought at the corner shop, her small way of adding sparkle to the boy's day. On the counter lay a neatly folded red t-shirt with Champion emblazoned across the chest. It was a gift she had saved for weeks to buy. To anyone else, it was just a shirt. To Zainab, it was her way of whispering to the boy, "You are loved. You matter. You are enough." That morning, Tamawa's laughter rang through the hallway, barefoot and excited. His gap-toothed smile lit up the room like sunshine. He was ready to welcome his special day, though he didn't yet know who had labored to make it so. Then came a knock. Zainab opened the door to find Sei standing there, balloons in one hand, a brightly wrapped gift in the other. "Happy birthday, champ!" he exclaimed, scooping Tamawa into his arms. The boy squealed in delight, clinging to his father as though nothing else in the world mattered. Sei spent the entire day with his son. They chased pigeons at the park, swung until the boy's laughter blended with the breeze, and later shared plates of steaming jollof rice and fried chicken at his favorite eatery. By the time he brought Tamawa home, both father and son carried the glow of a day well spent, the kind of memory that lingers in the heart long after the balloons have deflated. Amara's absence. Evening came, and Tamawa ran inside eagerly, expecting to find his mother waiting. He looked around the living room, his small voice hopeful. "Where's Mummy?" Zainab's heart tightened. Folding the laundry in her hands, she forced a smile. She crouched beside him, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "She'll be back soon," she said gently, though she had no idea when Amara would return. The truth was painful. Amara hadn't been anywhere near home that day. She was across town, dining and laughing with a man who wasn't her husband, swept away by attention and flattery. Somewhere between the clink of glasses and the hum of restaurant chatter, she had let her son's birthday slip from her mind. Zainab's personal mission. Zainab couldn't bear to see Tamawa's excitement fade into disappointment. She went to the kitchen, brought out the little vanilla cake, and pressed 6 tiny candles into its surface. "Come, birthday boy," she called, her voice bright. Tamawa's eyes widened as he saw the glowing candles. Wonder filled his face. "Make a wish," Zainab whispered. The boy clasped his hands, whispered a secret prayer, and blew out the candles in one determined puff. A stubborn flame flickered back to life, making him giggle before he snuffed it out again. They sang together, their 2 voices filling the small kitchen with warmth. They ate cake, laughing when frosting smeared across his nose, and for a while, the absence of his mother no longer mattered. Afterwards, Zainab handed him a plain wrapped gift. Inside was a small toy car. His face lit up brighter than any candle. "Thank you, Auntie Zainab," he shouted, hugging her tightly. In that hug, Zainab felt something stir within her, a blend of tenderness and responsibility. She was no longer just the housemaid. She was becoming the anchor of this child's joy. A late arrival. It was nearly midnight when Amara finally walked in, heels clicking against the tiles, the scent of wine and expensive perfume clinging to her clothes. She paused when she saw Tamawa still awake, clutching his toy car. For a fleeting second, guilt shadowed her face, but she quickly masked it. "Oh, today was your birthday, right?" she muttered, distractedly rummaging in her purse. "Sorry, baby, Mummy's been so busy. I'll get you something tomorrow." The boy only nodded, hugging his toy tighter. He didn't leap into her arms or shower her with smiles. He simply leaned closer to Zainab, his small frame declaring what words could not. He had already found his comfort elsewhere. Later that night, when sleep pulled at his eyelids, Tamawa whispered, "Auntie Zainab, can I sleep here tonight?" For a moment she hesitated, knowing Amara might not approve. But when she saw the boy clutching his toy car like a shield, his little body pressed against her with quiet trust, her heart softened. "All right," she murmured, pulling back the sheets. He climbed into her bed, curling up close beside her. As always, he started touching her boobs. He knew that was how Zainab liked to be touched. Zainab gave him special that night. She brought out his manhood, massaging it for minutes, then turned him over. She showed him how to penetrate, which he did. It wasn't what she expected, but it was better than none. That night, they both enjoyed it like never before. When she was done, she wrapped her hands around him, kissing his forehead, reminding him not to tell his mum. Within minutes, Tamawa's breathing softened into the steady rhythm of sleep. Zainab lay still, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Her heart ached. She realized the truth. She wasn't just filling a gap Amara left behind. She was becoming something more. That night, something became painfully clear. She was no longer just a maid. She was the refuge this child clung to, the steady hand he reached for when the world around him felt uncertain. As her fingers gently brushed through his soft hair, a question gnawed at her heart. How long could this fragile balance last? How long before the cracks widened, exposing a truth none of them could ignore? Zainab's secret. It began subtly. The first month, she noticed her period hadn't come. It must be stress, she told herself. Long hours of work, chasing after Tamawa, sleepless nights. Such things could upset a woman's cycle. She convinced herself not to worry. When the second month passed the same way, a ripple of fear struck her. She panicked for a day, then shoved the thought aside. It will come. It's just late. But when the third month slipped by in silence, denial was no longer possible. Her body felt heavier, her breasts tender, her emotions sharper than usual. Something inside her had changed. One evening, while Amara was out, she bought a pregnancy test kit and locked herself in the bathroom. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped it. She sat on the closed lid of the toilet, staring at the stick as the seconds crawled by. When the result appeared, her breath caught. 2 bold red lines. Positive. Her knees gave way. She slid onto the cold tiles, the test slipping from her grasp. Tears burned her eyes as she whispered through trembling lips, "No, no, no, no." The room seemed to close in on her, the weight of a secret too heavy for her to bear. An impossible choice. Zainab knew what this meant. She thought of the man responsible. There was no one she is having sex with except for Tamawa. He wasn't really sure of the results. She went to a small clinic the next day, hoping it wasn't too late to fix things. But after the scan, the nurse shook her head. "You're already 3 months gone. An abortion at this stage is very risky. I won't advise it." Zainab left the clinic broken, clutching the piece of paper that confirmed what she already knew. She was carrying a child, keeping silent. That night, when she stepped into Amara's house again, she forced a smile. Tamawa ran to her, throwing his arms around her waist. She hugged him back, blinking fast to stop the tears. To him, life was normal, but her heart pounded so hard she thought it would give her away. How can I tell Amara? The thought gnawed at her. If Amara found out, she would not only throw her out, she would call the police, brand her a monster. Then what? Pregnant, homeless, hunted. So lying awake beside Tamawa, hand covering her tiny bump, Zainab made a silent vow. She would keep the secret. She would bear this burden alone. Weeks slipped by. Zainab worked harder than ever, cooking, cleaning, caring for Tamawa, but her body betrayed her. Morning nausea wrung her stomach. Fatigue dragged at her limbs. Her clothes tightened around her waist. Amara noticed. A mother always knows. She had carried life once herself. She recognized the changes no woman could disguise. One quiet afternoon, with Tamawa asleep, she called Zainab into the dining room. The clock ticked loud in the heavy silence. "Zainab," she said softly, pointing to the chair opposite. "Sit." Zainab obeyed, her heartbeat thundering, her palms slick with sweat. "How many weeks late are you?" Amara asked suddenly, her voice calm but razor-sharp. Zainab froze, eyes glued to the table. "And who," Amara continued, her gaze burning through her, "is responsible for this pregnancy?" The silence stretched until Zainab's tears began to fall. Her sobs became the answer she could not speak. Amara leaned back slowly, her chest rising and falling. So it's true, she whispered to herself. The promise. The silence cracked only with Zainab's weeping. Finally, she lifted swollen eyes, her voice a broken whisper. Madam, if I tell you the truth, will you promise not to send me away? Amara frowned, unsettled. What do you mean? Please, Zainab begged. Promise me you won't chase me out. I have nowhere else. No one else. This baby needs me alive. Please, madam, I beg you. Amara's stomach tightened. Something dark hovered in Zainab's words, something that terrified her to hear. Against her better judgment, she nodded slowly. Fine, I won't send you away, but you must tell me everything. Zainab's breath shook. Her lips parted. It's Tamawa. The earth stood still. Amara's head snapped up, eyes wide with disbelief. What did you just say? Zainab cradled her stomach, sobbing. I didn't mean for it to happen. He came to me at night, said he was lonely. I only wanted to comfort him, but it went too far. Couldn't stop it. And now, she collapsed, covering her face. Amara staggered back, gripping the table to steady herself. My son! Her voice cracked, trembling with fury. Zainab, my only son? Her voice thundered, rattling the walls. Do you even understand what you're saying? Do you know what you've done? Zainab dropped to her knees, sobbing harder. I know, madam. I know. Please, don't throw me out. I beg you. I didn't plan it. I swear I didn't. Amara's mind spun with rage, shame, disbelief. Her whole body shook. She wanted to scream, to strike, to erase the words from existence. But the truth was already alive, lodged like a dagger in her chest. The question later, alone in her bedroom, Amara paced restlessly. No, couldn't be true. Tamawa was just a boy. Zainab must be lying. But memories pierced her denial. Tamawa curled in Zainab's bed when she returned late. The strange closeness they shared. Dread spread through her. She called him into her room. Mummy, you called me? He asked cheerfully, holding his football. His innocence made her throat close. She pulled him close, her voice low. Tamawa, tell me the truth. Did Zainab ever ask you to keep secrets from me? He dropped his eyes, twisting the ball in his hands. Then softly he nodded. Yes, Mummy. Her blood froze. What do you mean, yes? I like her, he said simply. Amara's chest tightened. Shut up. What do you mean you like her? She's always here, he whispered. When you're not around, she plays with me. At night I go to her room and we do things. She told me not to tell you. Amara's hands flew to her mouth. No, 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 she cried, shaking her head violently. But her son looked up, eyes earnest. It's true, Mummy. We do it every day. Her world collapsed. Enough, she screamed, her voice shattering. Go to your room. Startled, Tamawa fled. Amara crumpled to the floor, clutching her chest, sobbing uncontrollably. The truth had been spoken, and it had destroyed everything. The night of regret, Amara locked herself in her bedroom, her whole body shaking. Tears poured freely, her whispers jagged and broken. This is my fault. Every bit of it. Sei warned me. He begged me to be more present for Tamawa. But I was too busy chasing men, chasing happiness that never lasted, chasing emptiness. Her sobs deepened until her chest ached. What kind of mother abandons her own child like this? That night, she couldn't bring herself to leave Tamawa alone. Quietly, she crept into his room, gathered his small body into her arms, and carried him back to her bed. She held him tightly, as if afraid the world might snatch him away again. His tiny heartbeat thudded against her chest, steady and untroubled. She kissed his forehead again and again, wetting his hair with tears. He drifted quickly into sleep, untouched by the burden of the truth he had spoken. But Amara's eyes remained wide open, her heart breaking as she memorized the innocence in his face. I failed you, my son, she whispered into the darkness. But never again, never again. The morning after, by dawn, Amara's eyes were swollen, her body drained from a night of sleepless grief. With trembling hands, she reached for her phone and dialed the only person she trusted. Say, please, can you come? It's urgent. An hour later, he was standing in her living room, his face etched with worry. Amara, what happened? You sound shattered. Her lips quivered as she motioned for him to sit. Then, through sobs, she poured it all out. Zainab's pregnancy, the confrontation, and Tamawa's devastating confession. Say's face turned ashen. His eyes widened, disbelief written all over him. He buried his head in his hands. My God, Tamawa, our little boy. Amara grabbed his arm, crying harder. It's my fault, Say. I wasn't there for him. I left him with her. I abandoned my child. And now this. Say shot to his feet, pacing the room, clutching his head. No, 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 no. This can't be true. This can't be happening. His voice broke as he turned back to her. Amara, she can't just walk away from this. Zainab can't leave free, as if nothing happened. She shattered our son. She destroyed. His words faltered, swallowed by rage and sorrow. Amara nodded, her face streaked with tears. I know, but what do we do? The police? The courts? The world? How do we even begin to fix Tamawa? The room went silent. Between them hung a suffocating weight, grief, shame, fury, and the unshakable truth that their lives had been broken forever. A housemaid took advantage of a little boy when his mother isn't home, but she got pregnant in the process. Let's see what happened when his parents discovered. The confrontation. Amara sat stiffly on the sofa, her fingers clenched so tightly her knuckles turned white. Each shallow breath rattled in her chest. The silence of the living room pressed in, broken only by the ticking wall clock and the low hum of the ceiling fan. Say sat beside her, but not close. His jaw was locked, his shoulders tight, his eyes burning with the kind of anger that came from betrayal. Call her, he said finally. His voice was low, sharp, a blade slicing through the air. Amara hesitated, throat dry. With trembling hands, she unlocked her phone and dialed. Zainab? Come to the sitting room, she said, her tone flat. Moments later, Zainab appeared at the doorway. She wiped her damp palms on her apron, her eyes darting nervously between them. She already felt the storm waiting for her. Say rose slowly, towering over her trembling frame. His voice shook with rage held on a leash. Zainab, what have you done? The words cut deep. You betrayed this family. You betrayed that boy's innocence. Do you even understand what you've destroyed? Her knees buckled. She dropped to the floor, tears streaming as she clasped her hand.
I'm sorry.
I never meant. I was lonely and he. Don't. Sei roared, his voice exploding across the room. Amara flinched. Don't you dare justify it. He is a child. A child. Zainab collapsed further, sobbing into the tiles. The sound of her weeping filled the silence. After a long, heavy pause, Sei's voice came again, colder this time. How far along are you? Zainab's voice trembled. 5 months, 2 weeks. Sei's chest rose sharply, his hands balling into fists. So it's too late to end it, he muttered bitterly. His whole body seemed ready to break. He turned away, then back again, his voice final. I can't share a roof with you. Not after this. Please, she whispered, clutching his feet. Let me keep this child. I'll raise it quietly. I won't trouble anyone. Just give me a chance to make things right. Neither Sei nor Amara replied. Amara's gaze stayed fixed on the floor, her expression unreadable. Sei stood like stone, wounded, furious, resolute. The aftermath, the days that followed were suffocating. The house felt darker, heavier. Tamawa, though too young to grasp it all, knew something was broken. He clung to Amara constantly, avoiding Zainab, who drifted around the house like a ghost. Sei spent his nights pacing the sitting room long after everyone slept. Sometimes Amara joined him, but they spoke little. The silence between them grew wider. At last, one evening, he broke it. She can't stay here. Not with him. It isn't safe. It isn't right. Amara gave a small nod, her face hard, her heart long closed to Zainab. Within a week, Say secured a modest one-bedroom apartment for Zainab. He promised to cover the rent for the first year, furnish it with basics, and then let her face life on her own. At the same time, he enrolled Tamawa in therapy. The sessions were slow, painful. The boy sat curled in his chair, lips sealed, walls built high. But with patience, the therapist drew him out one word at a time. Each revelation pierced Say's chest like a blade. Amara, though cold toward Zainab, wept silently at night after each session, whispering prayers for her son. Say bore his pain like armor, trying to be strong for a boy he wasn't sure how to heal. The family was scarred. Nothing would ever return to what it once was. The separation. 2 weeks later, Zainab's departure came. Her belongings fit into 2 suitcases. Her belly had begun to show, and her swollen eyes revealed many sleepless nights. She avoided Tamawa's room as she left, knowing a single glance would shatter her. At the doorway, Amara stood with folded arms. Her face was caught between pity and disdain, but she said nothing. Say handed Zainab the keys to her new flat. His voice was stern, but it wavered at the edges. This is your chance to rebuild. Don't waste it. Zainab's tears slipped freely. Thank you for not throwing me away completely. And then she was gone. The new routine. Zainab settled quietly into her apartment. A single bedroom, a second-hand sofa, a gas cooker. It was small, but it was hers. She cooked, cleaned, and prepared for her child. Yet often she found herself by the window, staring into the empty street, aching for the sound of Tamawa's laughter. Back in Amara's house, life staggered forward. Say and Amara visited Zainab occasionally, bringing food and baby things, but they never took Tamawa along. He noticed. Why can't I see Auntie Zainab? He asked one night, eyes wide with innocence. Amara froze. She forced a weak smile. Because she has her own baby to care for now. It's better this way. Tamawa lowered his head. He didn't argue, but when he curled against her, the comfort he once found in her arms was no longer the same. The shocking meeting one Saturday afternoon, Sei and Amara stopped by Zainab's apartment with food and baby clothes. The visit was meant to be brief, but when they stepped inside, they froze. Zainab wasn't alone. On the couch sat a man sipping malt casually. A man Amara knew too well. Her heart lurched. Her palms turned clammy. The air thickened around her. It was him, the man from the club, the one-night stand that had changed her life 6 years ago. The man who vanished the next morning and never answered her calls. Their eyes locked. For a few seconds, silence screamed louder than words. Zainab, oblivious, smiled warmly. Oh, this is my cousin, Kunal. He just got into town. Say extended a hand politely. You're welcome. Kunal shook it, but his eyes flickered toward Amara. The look lasted barely a second, yet it burned like fire. Say noticed the sudden stiffness. Amara? You okay? She forced a tight smile. Yes, I'm fine. But she wasn't. Neither was Kunal. And in that small, suffocating room, the weight of an old secret returned. One that refused to stay buried. After the visit, the drive home was cloaked in silence. Amara sat rigidly in the passenger seat, her gaze fixed on the blur of passing streets as though she wished the world outside could swallow her whole. Say stole glances at her, worry written across his face. Amara, are you okay? He asked softly. I'm fine, she answered quickly, too quickly, but Say wasn't convinced. The very next day, unable to shake the unease, he returned to Zainab's apartment alone. He sat across from her, steady eyes locked onto her face. Zainab. His tone was calm but unyielding. Yesterday, I noticed something. The way Amara and your cousin looked at each other, it wasn't ordinary. They froze, as if there's something between them. Tell me the truth. What's going on? Zainab shifted uneasily, fingers knotting together. She wanted to protect Kunal, but the weight of Say's stare pressed too heavily against her chest. Finally, She let out a long sigh. Kunal told me, her voice trembled, that he and Amara had a one-night stand, about 6 years ago. Around the same month you and Amara were together too. The air in the room seemed to vanish. Sei leaned back slowly, his chest tightening, vision swimming. 6 years ago, the same month Tamawa was conceived. Memories long buried began to resurface. Amara's hesitation when she first revealed the pregnancy. The uncertainty in her eyes whenever he asked if she was sure. His throat went dry. His heart pounded painfully against his ribs. Then, he whispered hoarsely, more to himself than to her, "Is Tamawa even my blood?" The secret to that night. Sei lay in bed wide awake, the ceiling fan above whirring in lazy circles that mocked his restless mind. He tossed, turned, sat up, lay down again. Nothing stilled the storm inside. Could it be true? Could Tamawa not be his son? The thought cut like a blade. His mind replayed the past in cruel fragments. The first time he cradled newborn Tamawa, fragile and warm in his arms. The countless sleepless nights pacing the floor, whispering lullabies. The sacrifices. Money saved, long hours worked, all for his boy. His boy. His laughter. His smile. His heartbeat. But the whisper of doubt was louder now. Is he truly yours? The next evening, the following day, Sei barely functioned at work. Documents blurred before his eyes. His phone startled him with every buzz. By evening, he had made up his mind. He drove to Amara's earlier than usual. She opened the door, surprised. "You're early. Everything okay?" "Yes." He lied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I came to pick Tamawa. Just father and son time." Distracted by her reflection in the mirror, Amara adjusted her earrings. "That's good. He'll enjoy it. Don't stay out too late." Minutes later, Sei held Tamawa's small hand as they walked to the car. His grip was firm, his smile steady, but his palms sweated against the steering wheel. He drove past the park, past the ice cream shop, past every place Tamawa expected. "Daddy, aren't we going to the park?" the boy asked, blinking curiously. "Yes, champ." Sei forced a smile. "Soon. But first, we need to make a quick stop." The stop was a private hospital at the edge of town. Inside, Sei spoke quietly to the doctor. The man nodded, almost too knowingly. The swabs were taken, one from Sei, one from Tamawa. To the boy, it was just another checkup. On the way back, Sei bought him ice cream. Tamawa licked happily, legs swinging. "Daddy, when will we go to the park?" he asked again. Sei's throat tightened. He patted his son's head, forcing another smile. "Next time, champ. I promise." The results would take weeks. Sei hated waiting, but he had no choice. That night, he folded the hospital receipt into a brown envelope and buried it deep in his drawer like a forbidden secret. By day, he acted normal, laughing at Tamawa's jokes, nodding at Amara's chatter. By night, he lay awake, the same questions suffocating him. Did Amara lie to me? Did she know? Or was she just as uncertain as I am? Until the truth came in black and white, he wore his mask. Father, provider, visitor. No one suspected a thing. Secret nights in the midst of his turmoil, Sei found himself drawn to Zainab. At first, it was innocent, checking in on her, bringing groceries. But his visits became frequent. He stayed longer. He listened to her fears, her regrets, her dreams. He brought baby clothes, little things she never asked for. Zainab, once drowned in shame, began to feel human again. His kindness coaxed smiles she thought she had lost forever. Amara noticed his divided attention but dismissed it as guilt-driven charity. She had no idea that Sei had begun spending nights in Zainab's apartment, covering his absences with talk of late meetings and urgent work. The night happened one rainy evening. Thunder rumbling in the distance. Sei lingered. Zainab, heavy with pregnancy yet radiant, lay beside him. "I feel so lonely," she whispered, tears glistening. "Please, just hold me." "Zainab, no, it's not right. You're pregnant and—" But a single tear escaped her cheek. "I just want to feel wanted again. I don't want to be alone anymore." Something inside him broke. He reached for her, first in comfort, then in fire. One kiss became another. Hunger drowned guilt. They gave in to each other again and again until dawn. For the first time in months, Zainab whispered in the morning, "I feel alive again." Say lay beside her, conflicted. Yet he couldn't deny it. He too had found peace in her arms. After that night, nothing was the same. He told himself it was a mistake, but his heart betrayed him. He craved her voice, her presence. He called every morning, every night. He missed her when she wasn't near. Zainab, too, was transformed. Her sadness lifted. She hummed while cooking, smiled more, glowed in ways her neighbors noticed. Where Amara's words cut sharp, Zainab soothed. Where Amara criticized, Zainab encouraged. With her, Say felt something he hadn't felt in years, peace. The confession. One evening, after folding baby clothes and tidying her small apartment, they ended up in bed again. The silence that followed their heated passion was thick with truths that had long lingered unsaid. Zainab lay against his chest, her fingers drawing slow circles over his skin. Her voice, soft yet unflinching, broke the quiet. "Say, I love sex. I can't hide it. Sometimes I wish I could have it every day. It makes me feel alive." For a moment he stilled. Then, a quiet laugh escaped his lips as he kissed her forehead. "You're something else, Zainab. At last. Someone who speaks my language." Her eyes lifted, searching his. "You mean, you feel the same?" "Yes," he admitted, pulling her closer. "With you, I don't have to pretend. You give me freely, without shame. And I like it. Maybe too much." She flushed, her heart pounding with a mix of shyness and secret delight. For the first time, she didn't feel used. She felt wanted, needed, valued. From that night, their connection deepened. Say wasn't just coming out of obligation anymore. He longed to be near her. And whenever he left, he carried her scent, her smile, her warmth with him. Meanwhile, Amara, lost in her own distractions, remained oblivious. She didn't see the man she'd once taken for granted slowly slipping into another woman's arms. The DNA truth. One cool morning, Say's phone rang. "Sir, your DNA result is ready," the hospital staff informed. "You may come for collection." His chest tightened. For days, he had been restless, the thought gnawing at his peace. Now, the answer was waiting in a sealed envelope. At the hospital, his palms were clammy as he signed the papers. Sitting in his car, he tore the envelope open, heart pounding. His eyes darted across the page, then froze. Paternity result. Probability of paternity is 0%. Subject tested is not the biological father of the child. The paper shook in his hands. His chest constricted until he could hardly breathe. Hot tears blurred his sight, spilling freely. Alone in his car, he broke. Tamawa was not his son. The thought struck like a blade. Amara lied to me. She bound me with chains that were never mine. And the cruelest twist? The true father was none other than Zainab's cousin. The man Say had only just met. The confrontation. For days, Say carried the truth in silence. The envelope burned in his mind. Each time Tamawa called him Daddy, his heart twisted. Each time Amara smiled carelessly, unaware, rage bubbled within. She thought his mood was work-related stress. But it wasn't work, it was betrayal. One evening, he couldn't contain it anymore. He drove to her apartment, jaw clenched, hands gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles whitened. Amara returned from an outing, heels clicking, laughter still in her voice from a phone call. But when she entered, she froze. Say was already seated in the living room, an envelope on the table, his eyes dark and hollow. "Say, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice uneasy. Silence. His gaze burned into her. She forced a shaky laugh. "You're scaring me. What's going on?" When he finally spoke, his voice was low, heavy with pain. "Why did you lie to me, Amara?" Her heart lurched. "Lie? I don't understand. Why did you make me believe Tamawa was mine?" Blood drained from her face. Her throat dried. "Say, He is yours. Stop it. His roar cracked through the air as his fist slammed the envelope. She flinched. Don't you dare lie again. I did a DNA test. He is not my son. The words shattered her. Amara staggered, trembling. No, no, say. It's not what you think. He rose, his eyes red with fury. That boy I've loved, raised, sacrificed everything for, he belongs to that man. The one you slept with. Zainab's cousin. Her knees weakened. Tears rushed down her face. Say, I swear I didn't plan it. I didn't even know who his father was at first. You were the one who stayed. You were the one who cared. I thought, maybe it wouldn't matter. It matters. His voice cracked, thick with rage. He shook the paper in his hand like a weapon. It matters because you stole my truth. You shackled me to a lie. Do you know what that does to me? To him. Amara collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. Please, don't leave me. Don't take Tamawa away. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. But he peeled her desperate hands off him, one by one. His chest heaved. His words cut like ice. Don't touch me, Amara. You destroyed everything. Then he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The echo felt like the end of her world. At Zainab's apartment, Say drove straight to Zainab's. He didn't knock properly, just pushed the door open. She emerged from the kitchen, her round belly leading the way. One look at his face and her eyes widened. Say, what happened? You've been crying. He dropped heavily into a chair, gripping his head. His voice was raw. Amara lied to me. Tamawa, he's not mine. He belongs to your cousin. Zainab froze. What?
No.
Say, please tell me you're not sure. I did a DNA test. His voice cracked. I confronted her tonight. She admitted it. Her hand flew to her mouth. She sank into a seat, shaking. My own cousin? God, how could this happen? The silence between them weighed heavy. Finally, she whispered, then he must face the truth. He can't run from it forever. But Say looked shattered. I don't even know what to do anymore, Zainab. I love that boy. But now, it all feels like a lie. She reached for his trembling hands, her voice gentle. You've been his father in every way that matters. That doesn't vanish because of a paper. Amara's night of tears. Back at home, Amara wept until her chest hurt. The house felt suffocatingly empty. She clutched her pillow, crying into the silence. In the night, Tamawa stirred and padded into her room, rubbing his eyes. Mummy, why are you crying? She wiped her face quickly, forcing a smile. I'm not crying, baby. I'm fine. But her voice shook. The boy climbed onto her lap, resting against her. She rocked him, tears slipping silently once more. One mistake, one night, and now, every breath, every heartbeat of this child reminded her of a choice she could never erase. The meeting. The next morning, Say's voice came through the phone. Flat, heavy, drained of life. Come to Zainab's place. We need to talk. Amara's stomach twisted. By the time she arrived, the air inside the apartment was so thick it felt like it could choke her. Say sat stiffly, Zainab at his side, and across from them her cousin. Face pale, eyes lowered in shame. He cleared his throat, speaking with difficulty. Amara, Say told me the truth. If Tamawa is mine, then I won't run from him. I'll take responsibility. But, he paused, his voice thinning, I have a wife, children. I can't be fully there for him. Still, I'll make sure he never lacks. Amara broke down, covering her face with both hands. Sei leaned forward, his words slow, measured, but edged with ice. I'll still be in Tamawa's life, but not as his father. When he's grown, we'll tell him together. Until then, what he needs most is stability. Her throat burned as she whispered, I understand. This mess is mine. The silence that followed wasn't resolution. It was a wound covered, not healed. Weeks later, time dragged like chains. Amara poured herself into Tamawa, but guilt clung to her like a second skin. Sei visited, but the warmth between them had long frozen. Zainab's cousin sent money faithfully, yet his absence was louder than his contribution. Meanwhile, Zainab's belly grew. One evening, after helping her ease into bed, Say lingered, his eyes scanning her modest room. He sighed, "You can't have the baby here. I found a bigger place. Move in. At least until after delivery." Zainab frowned. "Say, I don't want to be a burden." "You're not." His tone was firm, his gaze soft. "You need safety. I need to know you're okay." For the first time in a long time, Zainab's lips curved into a fragile smile. For once, she felt protected. The night of blood. Weeks later, the new apartment carried a different kind of silence. Meals shared, soft laughter, conversations that stitched comfort into lonely nights. Slowly, Sei had become her anchor. Until that night, Sei stirred awake, sensing movement beside him. He turned and froze. Zainab's face was ashen, her trembling hands pulling back the blanket. Red spread across the sheets like wildfire. Her voice cracked with terror. "Sei!" He shot out of bed. "God knows, Zainab!" In seconds he was lifting her, fumbling for the keys, carrying her down the stairs. She clutched her belly, sobbing, "Please, don't let anything happen to my baby." Sei's jaw locked, his grip on the wheel white-knuckled as he sped through the night. "You'll be fine. Just hold on. I won't let anything happen to you." But inside, he didn't know who he was more desperate to save, Zainab, the child, or himself from breaking completely. At the hospital, the emergency ward swallowed her whole. Sei paced like a man possessed, the sterile scent of disinfectant thick in his throat. Sweat drenched his back though the air was cold. His lips moved endlessly in prayer. "God, please, please don't take them. Please save them." Minutes stretched into centuries. The shuffle of nurses, the beeping of machines, the muffled urgency behind doors. It all became a drumbeat of dread. Finally, the doctor emerged, grim-faced. "The bleeding is severe. She isn't due yet, but we can't wait. We have to remove the baby now. Prepare yourself." Sei's voice caught in his throat. He could only nod, his body trembling like a leaf in the wind. Inside the theater, time lost all meaning. Then movement. Nurses pushed through the double doors, carrying a fragile bundle wrapped in white. Alive. Tiny fingers curled tight, tiny chest rising unevenly. The baby was fighting. Sei followed, heart racing, watching as they placed the infant in an incubator. But relief was short-lived. He turned. "Where's Zainab? How is she?" "Please wait, sir. The doctors are still on her," a nurse said quickly. Before he could press further, the baby shuddered, then went frighteningly still. "No, no, no." Sei lunged toward the incubator, panic tearing through him. Nurses rushed in, hands moving frantically. Someone pulled him back, but he fought against the grip, his voice breaking. "Please." Moments dragged like knives. Then one doctor turned, eyes heavy with sorrow.
I'm sorry.
The baby didn't survive. The world collapsed. Sei's knees gave way, and a sound ripped from his chest. Raw, broken, inhuman. Later, they led him to her. She was pale, weak, searching desperately with her eyes. "Where's my baby?" she whispered. Sei froze. His silence was answer enough. Her lips trembled. "No, no, don't say it." The faint nod shattered her. She wailed, clutching her stomach.
No.
"I carried this child for months. Every kick, every movement, and now nothing." Sei rushed to her side, tears spilling.
I'm sorry, Zainab.
"I'm so sorry." Her cry pierced the sterile walls, the kind of cry that never left the soul. When she was discharged, Sei personally carried her things into the new apartment he'd prepared. Quiet, safe, filled with everything he hoped would comfort her. But Zainab moved like a shadow of herself. Her once bright eyes dimmed, her steps weighed down by grief. Sei hovered gently, fixing her pillows, cooking her meals, coaxing her to take medication. Days blurred. One afternoon, Amara came by. She embraced Zainab softly, her voice unexpectedly tender. "I'm so sorry about the baby. Please take heart." God knows best. Zainab nodded faintly, whispering a thank you, but Amara's sharp eyes saw the way Sei moved around her, pouring her water, adjusting her seat, fussing over her comfort with quiet tenderness. When he walked her out, her expression hardened. So this is what you've become? She sneered. Of all women, you chose the maid? No standard, no class. It's shameful, Sei. He stayed silent, lips pressed tight. You think people won't talk? You'll regret this one day. She spun on her heel, heels clacking like thunder. Caring hands. Inside, Zainab lay curled on the couch. Sei softened his voice, hiding the storm in his chest. Are you hungry? She shook her head. Still, he went to the kitchen to cook. Every little act was his vow. She would never feel abandoned. One evening, as he tucked a blanket around her, Zainab caught his hand. Her eyes glistened. Say, I don't know what I'd have done without you. He brushed her hair back gently. You'll never be alone again. Her heart swelled. The man she once feared would cast her aside had become her anchor. Slowly, love bloomed in her again. Not from passion, but from the safety of his patience and loyalty. New beginnings. Months rolled into seasons. Slowly, laughter returned to their home. Zainab smiled again, hummed in the kitchen, even dreamed of the future. Then came the day she discovered she was pregnant. Tears streamed down her face as she held Sei's hands. He lifted her off her feet, his own tears glistening. This time, he whispered, voice trembling, we'll do it right. We'll raise this child together. Even before marriage was discussed, Sei had been quietly plotting something unforgettable. He wanted to give Zainab a memory that would erase her scars and crown their journey with hope. One afternoon, while chatting with Amara, he casually dropped the words, I think I'm ready to marry Zainab. Amara froze, then threw her head back in laughter. You? Marry your former maid? A beg? Say, stop joking. She scoffed, waving her hand dismissively. To her, it was nothing but a ridiculous thought. But Sei only smiled faintly, saying nothing. His silence carried a truth she could not yet imagine. The surprise engagement. Weeks later, Sei organized a private dinner, pretending it was to celebrate a recent work achievement. Zainab, dressed simply and modestly, had no clue what awaited her. When the evening drew to a close, Sei rose to his feet, tapped his glass and spoke. His voice steady, filled with emotion. Life has given me many blessings, but nothing compares to the gift of loving you, Zainab. The lights softened, music floated in the background, and before she could blink, he was on one knee, holding out a glistening ring. Will you marry me? Gasps echoed through the room. Zainab covered her mouth, tears rushing down her cheeks. She shook her head in disbelief, whispering through sobs, Yes, yes, Sei. Applause filled the air as he slid the ring onto her finger. She clung to him tightly, overwhelmed with gratitude, her heart bursting with love, preparing for forever. The news spread like wildfire. Families were notified, dates were fixed, and plans quickly followed. Once the girl who had lived in the background, Zainab now stood radiant, a bride-to-be planning her dream wedding. Together with Sei, she chose colors, fabrics, and venues. Every detail was touched by joy. Their happiness was contagious. Anyone who saw them could feel their love. Amara's regret. When Amara received the wedding invitation, her hands trembled. The golden letters Sei and Zainab stabbed her heart like knives. She collapsed on her couch, tears streaming. This was the man she once had, the man she lost through pride and sharp words. Now, he was marrying the very woman she had once ridiculed. Her own life was a hollow shell. Men drifted in and out, none staying, none truly loving her. Deep inside, she knew the truth. Her arrogance, her unforgiving spirit, her restless pride had cost her everything. And now, the home she once dreamed of was no longer hers to claim. The wedding, the hall glittered with elegance and joy. Sei, regal in his cream agbada, stood tall. His eyes locked on Zainab as she glided down the aisle in her flowing white gown. The crowd melted at the sight of little Tamawa, dressed in a tiny suit, carrying the rings with pride. Vows were exchanged, promises spoken with trembling voices. When Say kissed Zainab's hand and whispered, "Forever with you," there wasn't a dry eye in the hall. After the marriage, filled with laughter and peace. Zainab gave birth to a healthy baby, and their home overflowed with love. Say adored her, and she cherished him in return. Each day, she whispered thanks to God for second chances. Amara, on the other hand, was left with nothing but memories and regret. Sometimes, she scrolled through pictures of them online. Say's proud smile, Zainab's glowing face, and wept bitterly for what she had lost. But Zainab never looked back. She had endured storms, survived shame, and risen above her past. Now, she was healed, loved, and fully cherished, married at last to the man of her dreams. Thanks for watching. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories.